We're going to start in just a few moments. It's 6:59 on my clock right now, and it's 7. Awesome. We are live. Welcome, welcome, welcome.
Thank you.
Welcome all those that are tuning in for Be Healed Web Show on this evening. I am your host, Ms. Camille R. Perry. Have some dynamic guests on this evening's show, and I'm just so happy to have them today. I'll introduce them in just a second, but just wanted to do a little housekeeping as you all are coming in. Again, Be Healed Web Show is created and designed through it was inspired by God, and it was just more so for us as people to be able to cut out some time during the week on a Tuesday night at 7 to share their journey where God has healed, or maybe even the process of healing. And so tonight's special guest for episode 3, titled "It Takes 3," is my own parents, Pastor Kermit and Sandy Perry. Without them, there would be no me. So, that's just a place to give God praise right there. But it's my honor and a privilege to have them today, for them to share their healing process and what that looks like. So I'm going to allow you all to greet everyone, introduce yourselves, and then we'll get started. Pastor Kermit, Sister Sandy.
Excuse me. Good evening, everyone. God bless you, Camille. Thank you for having us on tonight. My name is Kermit Perry. This is my lovely wife, Sandra Perry, and we're just excited about being here tonight.
It's our pleasure to be here, Camille. Thank you.
Awesome. So our title is "It Takes 3." So tell us what your journey has been. So how long have you and your husband been married?
Well, since we've been married twice. We were married in 75, divorced in 77. So it was just 16 months. Divorced for almost 3 years. Remarried in 1980.
Mm-hmm.
And we just celebrated this past January 5th, we celebrated 40 years.
Awesome. Congratulations, 40 years. So when we look at 40 years of marriage, before we get to where we are now, let's go back. So how did you all meet? So you're telling us that you've been together for quite some time. How did you all meet? So Mr. Perry, Pastor Perry, Dad, how did you meet Mom?
Well, I'll give you my version. Her version may be a little different, but this is my version. I was a young man, recently out of the United States Air Force. It was 1974, and I was working at Huntington Memorial Hospital. Hadn't been there too long. I must say, though, I don't know if this is relevant or not, but I learned the trade of electrician through my parents and my father, and through the Air Force.
Okay.
And so, with that trade, I happened to be the first Black electrician at Huntington Memorial Hospital in Pasadena.
Awesome.
And so that was an accomplishment. I was happy about that. But anyway, to answer the question directly, I'm an electrician. I was working in the parking lot for the employees. We were working on the automatic gate. People pull up, they swipe the card, they drive in. Well, we were working on the gate, so we had the arm up.
Mm-hmm.
So, people we just wave them on through. Well, lo and behold, I see this gold colored 69 Camaro.
Okay.
Whipped into the parking lot. Young lady had red hair, just caught my eyes, and I'm like, now she's got to talk. So I had the controls of the gate, so I let the arm down. And that started the conversation. That's how I met her in my job on that day in the employee parking lot.
So you saw that, was it the car or was it her? Was it a mixture of the two?
It was just like bells ringing, lights going off, heart pounding, you know, and it just something about just that scene. I can still remember it like it was yesterday,
Mm-hmm.
and I just knew I wanted to talk to her.
So it wasn't the car?
No, it wasn't a car. I've been married,
Awesome.
know not to say that. No, it was the lady in the car.
Okay.
Still,
I
that is
love that. Okay. So instant attraction made her stop. So tell Sister Sandy, Mom, tell us your side of that same day.
Well, I just didn't know that he had put the gate down. Um, when he asked me for my card because the gate was down, I wasn't even thinking because my intent was to. It was my first day on the job. My intent was to get in there so I could report to personnel and get my work assignment.
Okay.
So he asked me for my card to raise the gate, the arm of the gate. Had no idea that that wasn't necessary. Not at all. But he was such a gentleman. He really was. I didn't know he had, some mischievous thoughts going on there. But he presented himself as such a gentleman, and I was impressed. And then I
Okay.
saw him later in personnel at the end of the day when I was to turn in my time card to personnel. And he was leaning across the counter in personnel. So here I had seen him twice in the same day.
Okay.
but by accident.
By accident. Is that the story we're sticking to?
We're sticking to it.
Okay. Okay. So it was by accident. So you all met, and so kind of just tell it like, how long did you date? In this society, dating is pretty very much an ambiguous term, because dating, if you ask young people what dating means to them, it's a myriad of things. You ask maybe someone in their 20s and 30s or even their 40s, and some folks in their 50s, what was your dating, or did you have a courtship? How did that all happen?
Well, it was either the very end of or the first of either the end of September or the first of October in 1975, and we got married in December of 75.
Okay.
So that was not really a
So are
long
we saying you're like the first episodes of 90 Day Fiance? Is what's
in that area.
From the parking lot to the altar.
okay? That's interesting.
Yeah.
From the parking lot to the altar, huh?
You know,
Okay.
it, it's 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 got in hindsight so many things we see in retrospect. It was God's divine plan, but as of that
Mhm.
time, I'm fresh out of the military. You know,
Mhm.
uh, always I feel as though I had a good heart, but
Mhm.
I didn't know Jesus. And I
Okay.
didn't know then that I didn't know Jesus. I just, I was alcoholic. I would say at a young age. From
Okay.
school through those lonely nights of 4 years in the military and cheap liquor and so forth. Um,
Mhm.
you know, and so coming to and just for her and I just to make that connection and begin to know her. You know, I just wanted to. I always wanted to be with her. You know,
Okay.
and so I think we may have. I don't know if we ever called it dating, but did we have a date the first day we met? Did we meet?
No,
When was the next day?
it was the next day.
Okay, she's good at dates. I'm not good at dates. I just remember
Yeah,
things.
yeah, it was
Okay.
the next day. But we mostly kind of hung out. It wasn't dating, you know. Hung out at his place, hung out at his mom's and dad's. We just basically hung out. A couple of
Okay.
times would come out to where I lived. I lived in Fish Canyon at the time,
Mhm.
um, and so it was just hanging out. It wasn't the official dating where we date now that we're married. We date, you know.
And we can't stay out late.
Right. and I did. I had a curfew because I lived at my mom's house, even though I was 18.
Mm-hmm.
At curfew, and so when we would go into Los Angeles to hang out with friends of his,
Mm-hmm.
or even family members of his, I had a certain time that I had to be in.
Okay.
My mother was serious about that.
Okay. So dated with a curfew. Okay.
Yeah.
Or hung out rather.
Hanging the curfew.
Hanging out. So you hung out while for those 90 days, you hung out and something happened within those 90 days that made you want to spend the rest of your lives together to pledge your undying love. Tell us about that.
Well, you heard him say he wanted to be with me, so
I can't hear you. Say that nice and loud. I'm sorry.
I said you heard him say he just wanted to be with me. You know,
He just wanted to be, I mean, listen, that is a mouthful. And I wish more felt that way. More men and women would feel that they just want to have that monogamous relationship. So he just wanted to be with you. So he proposed. Or do you want to tell us more of that story?
Yeah.
I didn't go like that. He actually wanted me to move in with him, and that was against my standard.
Mm-hmm.
I wasn't going to go that way. So we actually broke up before we got married.
You broke up before you got married.
Right.
Over the notion of shacking up, which was not in her DNA.
Okay.
And me, it was like, why not? So, and so Sandy's good at the dates and times, so she'll have to fill in some of my blank spots. But it came a time to where, okay, she said we separated, right, over this issue. And but now we still love each other. But this ain't working. This part ain't working. So I had her. She came over to my.
His sister talked to him, Joyce, your Aunt Joyce.
Okay. Shout out to Aunt Joyce.
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah, I forgot about that.
Yeah, she talked to him, and he called me.
And then she came over to my apartment on Maple Street.
Mm-hmm.
Earth, Wind, and Fire and Maze playing in the background, and and we began to talk about, staying together, living together, but not married. And she wasn't going to go. So here we are at this stalemate. So I said, well, let's get married. Well, I didn't have a ring.
Okay.
Electrician. And I did have some speaker wire.
Wow.
Even the computer said that.
So I proposed to her, and she said yes. I got the little black speaker wire, cut it to size, tied it around her finger, and at that point, we were engaged.
My mother was not happy.
Okay. So for everyone that's listening, let's replay this back. You propose with a speaker wire, and you tied it around her finger as if it was a memo
and she
for her to remember.
Yeah.
And you accepted this token.
I did, but I did get a ring later.
we ain't there yet.
Okay. So,
don't recommend, and I wouldn't be happy if you came on with speaker wire. Neither was my mom happy. I mean, thank God she had recently had surgery and couldn't get up and whoop me.
Okay. Wow.
Because that's what she threatened to do.
Wow. Okay. So that's interesting. So, some are saying that that's a very creative way. So, some are shouting you out for your creativity on this spot. But I do want to say that I think that shows your commitment and focus on what it is that you intended to do. So not having much, but what you did have, you offered. So I think that says a lot about the love ship that you all had. So within 90 days from you seeing her driving that Camaro in all of her beauty and glory, to you seeing him again in personnel where he may or may not have followed you. We don't know. To hanging out at family members and friends' house.
Yeah.
People wanting to shack up. You're saying no, having standards. Thanking God for that. To now proposing after a great conversation and assisted by your sister kind of getting you in shape, sir.
Mm-hmm.
You propose. How soon did you all get married after that?
I think it was about 2 weeks.
Oh, 2 weeks. Okay.
Yeah.
Wow.
So
Wow.
I guess by now you probably wondering, okay, well, how did you get the church and get all the reception, get everything going in such a short time? Well,
We didn't.
we got married at the Justice of the Peace.
It was.
Okay.
It was
Yes.
and Reverend Brown
Yeah.
married us.
Yeah.
My mom's pastor at the time.
Little chapel in Los Angeles or Compton.
Okay.
I had an afro and a leather coat.
And back in the day, you were supposed to get a blood test if you had not lived together.
Okay.
He lied to the preacher and told him we had lived together.
Well, you shouldn't tell everything, should
Well,
you?
Oh,
I'm just saying.
okay.
Because you have to ask yourself, what does living together really mean? Is it like for 30 minutes or
No.
a week or a month? You know.
So what are we bringing out, or what are we confessing here? Are we saying that there was fraternization prior?
We were not believers.
Oh, okay.
We did not have our faith rooted and grounded in the Lord at all. I had the background of Christianity.
So there was some spotting up. There was no unspotting. There was spotting.
I don't know what that means. Sorry.
She knows. It's all right. I got you. Of course. I mean, we were unsaved. So what do unsaved do?
And in love.
And in love. Okay. Unsaved, but did he say in heat?
In heat.
I saw that. I was like, he meant to say in heat. Yes. Okay. Well, thank God for backdating. All right. Okay. So, you get married at not Justice of the Peace, but you had Reverend Brown.
Yeah.
Okay. I take it he's probably gone on to be with the Lord since I was so long ago. Unless he's holding on. Where you? Shout out Reverend Brown. Okay, so you get married. You said you were married for 16 months, though.
Yeah.
What happened? What happened in love and wire rings and all this heat and all this passion happening? Why did it only last 16 months?
Well, before we get into that, we did have a honeymoon that kind of went south. Well, it went south that night.
Okay, you had a honeymoon.
It was a brand new hotel out off what's now the 91 freeway at.
Oh Jesus!
We were in Compton.
Off of Avalon Central over in there,
Okay.
and we had the King Suite.
No, we had the executive suite.
Oh, executive.
Oh, the executive. Okay, y'all was doing it big.
Oh yeah.
Well, when they heard we got married, they gave us the executive suite.
Had our champagne and had our KFC.
Girl, KFC.
So KFC was your caterer for this wedding. Okay.
And so I everything was set.
Okay.
But all of a sudden I start feeling a tingle in my throat. And so we pop over the champagne and now I can barely swallow.
Okay. Sound like an allergy.
I only had KFC and champagne, but we also had cold medicine because we thought maybe he was catching a cold. I mean, who does that? I don't know who catches a cold. But so we had medication, and actually we ate the KFC, he took the medication, drank a little champagne, and he went out like a light.
So you mix medication with alcohol is what I'm hearing.
Back in the day, we wasn't all that. So
We go end up.
I had to take him to we had to go to emergency the next morning.
Okay.
Strep throat.
He had strep throat.
Oh, wow. Okay, so you really were sick. Okay.
Mother-in-law looked at me like, what have you done to my baby boy? Like, he's sick.
Okay, so they thought you had poisoned him.
I don't know. I don't know.
That's what I got out of it.
I didn't have that. The look kind of looked like that though. Down in ER at Huntington Hospital in ER.
Okay.
We didn't have bridesmaids. You know what? There were only my mother-in-law, my mother, my father-in-law, my sister, and a friend of my sister, um, Sandra Vassar's daughter Jackie. Those were the preacher and
My
Kermit and
sister
I.
and them.
Mm-mm.
Okay.
That was the first wedding. Those
Okay.
were the guests, 5 guests.
So we've thrown that in. So now, what was the question again?
Okay, thank you for context. So what happened in those 16 months of marriage that caused the wiring to go away? What happened?
Misunderstanding and lack of communication.
So misunderstanding, lack of communication. That's what you say. What do you say? What was
Well,
the
it was it was a lot. Our we're from different backgrounds.
okay?
Uh, I was from a close knit, small, overprotective family.
Okay.
My wife was it's from a family, a large family, a lot of in-law, I mean, a lot of cousins and uncles,
Mhm.
and a huge family, and so they would probably not, they could see each other, not see each other, and so at face value, that shouldn't be a problem, But now,
Mhm.
mind you, I said earlier that I had a drinking problem,
Okay.
and so right off, that's not healthy. That's not good for anyone. Now, we loved each other. We
Hmm.
loved each other the best we knew how.
Okay.
The best understanding we had of love, we had that for each other. And so here we were, young, and she's 19, I'm 22 or 23, and we bought a new home. It wasn't a brand new home, but it was new to us. It was a nice home.
Well, tell her why we had to buy a home.
Then you have to tell that. Go ahead.
We got evicted out of our apartment
Oh.
Oh, yeah.
because somebody, when they would drink, they would turn their music up way loud.
Oh.
And somebody loved to park in the driveway, which it was, what do you call those places, duplexes, where there's multiple units.
Hmm.
And
The landlord was a Hitler.
the way he would park would block the other resident, is what it was. And he was warned about it multiple times.
Okay.
But his statement was, I want what I want when I want it.
Mm.
I don't want to get what I get I don't want to get what I got when I get it. That was his statement
I don't want to get what I got
when I get it.
when I get it.
Yeah.
I don't remember that one.
Yeah. Yeah.
I don't. That doesn't. Okay, we'll have to take that
Well,
offline.
remember he
Okay.
Okay,
Okay.
let's try this again.
So we got okay because
got
this
evicted
is
because
this.
he wouldn't turn his music down. He would go to sleep. I'd turn the music down. It would wake him up, and he'd turn it back up. The landlord just kicked us out, so we bought a house. He was a
Okay.
veteran. Bought his house.
To enhance on that, a lot of times we can pick up bad habits,
Yes.
not even know that we have them,
Mhm.
and nothing worse than having issues that you don't know you have.
All right.
After spending almost 2 years in the Philippines, where all we had was American flag, our stereo systems,
Mhm.
drugs and alcohol. That was the life.
Mhm.
And then you come back to the world, as we would call it, and you bring that with you. You don't really know. I never really knew what relationship was really all about. I never had a role model. Never had a role model, and so, and that may be another, answer for another question later. So I was pretty much just winging it,
Okay.
the best that I knew how. But I loved her. I loved her with all that I knew, and so we were blessed to buy a home, and it was a nice home.
Mhm.
And we had a car. She had a car.
Okay.
I had a car. In that time, a real nice car. So you would think from the outside, a young couple, both working, house, car, what could possibly be the problem? It's one thing to love someone. It's another thing to know how to love them.
Now that's a word.
It's one thing of understanding what it means to be a husband, what it means to be responsible, to be an adult, what you allow into your home, what you
Mhm.
don't, how you take a stand, whether it's friend, foe, or family, how to maneuver through those things. And so when you don't understand that, then right off you have issues. In-laws become outlaws.
Mhm.
And nothing worse than a man or a woman. I'm just speaking from my side now, not hers, uh,
Mhm.
where a man may feel as though he's put in a place to choose between family and
Okay.
spouse, which never should never even be. But
Right.
if when you don't know any better, it feel like you're in this tight place and you don't know and you're trying to please everybody and you really don't know how to proceed. But but all of those things have a consequence behind it. So that's one aspect to the question.
And most of the time, I was not pleased. I mean, case in point, um, we were gonna. I'd love for us to just take a trip because every day we were with his family. Every
Mhm.
They live like a few blocks away.
Okay.
So we were gonna take a trip to Vegas. So what he was supposed to do was he was supposed to go to I think he was going to the store. Yes, to get bacon.
No, that was another time when I messed
Oh,
up my
that's when you
knee.
messed up your knee.
That was
Mm.
another dagger.
No.
In other
We'll stay
words,
with the first dagger first.
what would happen oftentimes is I guess he would see an opportunity to go by his parents before we
Mhm.
go away. And sometimes he'd come back with his dad or his dad and his brother in one trip, his dad, his brother, my sister-in-law, my brother-in-law, my brother-in-law's girlfriend. I mean, it was supposed to be just him and I on a trip.
Mm.
So that was a little, not comfortable,
And I'm like, what's the problem? We all together.
you know.
So you didn't have healthy boundaries with family,
Right.
um,
And
and even friends.
didn't know how.
Okay, didn't know how to establish boundaries in your relationship.
And it would, then we didn't know what we know now about the rules of engagement, about being civil in your conversation, being an adult, not saying things to hurt or that are hurtful.
Okay.
We didn't understand that then. And so to me, um, it was like, well, when do we have we? But it was
Mhm.
him. He was happy when it was his folks and me. And I'm like,
Mhm.
that's not marriage.
And
Right.
she's really the only woman I ever loved. Ever.
Okay.
I can say the only woman I ever loved. I never was one had a bunch of girlfriends and all this. Went into the military at 18. So and again, and not laying this on anyone. Just I didn't. There was things for me personally that I just didn't know any better.
Okay.
There's things I didn't know how to do, and then from my background and from a lot of in my home life, there was a lot of contention,
Okay.
yelling, uh, verbal abuse stuff with my dad, and and not just putting him down, but this is kind of where we came from. And so as a young man, I had already started getting thin in my head. I think it was due to nerves because of years of contention. And I've never been one who liked arguing.
Right.
And so Sandy is very detailed and engaging, and she's a deep thinker. And where I'm kind of just kind of, it's black or white. It's here's what makes sense to me. Let's do it. But so when we would have intense fellowship or communication,
Then it was arguments.
then and even when it wasn't to her arguing, to me it was noise.
Okay.
And then all I knew was to get away from the noise.
Mm.
Here I love her. I want to be with her. Here we're having a huge disagreement. To me, it's yelling.
Okay.
And then, so the alcohol and stuff, that's not helping anything.
Right.
So what I would do is I would just get in my car and I just drive. Just away from the noise and try to clear my head and so the further I would go, it's like, okay, what are you doing? What are you doing?
Mm.
But every time that happened, it was driving a bigger wedge. It was bit by bit, situation by situation,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm speaking from my perspective.
Right.
I have
Absolutely.
to own up to where I was,
Mm-hmm.
and so as the thing unfolded, I'm sure there's a lot more that can be said that Sandy can share in this. When the divorce papers hit me,
Okay.
it was like, what?
Mm-hmm.
How could you do this to me?
Yeah.
I mean, I'm feeling like I'm blindsided. I have no idea that this was coming my way,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm angry, I'm hurt, I'm devastated, and so again, there's things I learned, and we'll get to that later, things I learned after the fact,
Okay.
but so all of these small things, from getting drunk and sometimes passing out and embarrassing her.
Mm-hmm.
And leaving me in unsafe condition.
See, so
Because sometimes there were people in the house, his friends, and
Mm-hmm.
you don't sleep, you don't pass out with your male friends in the house with your wife.
Right.
And so there was it even, I had some ideas. I was not the perfect wife. I'm not trying to portray that I am. That is not, and I'm still not the perfect wife. I'm trying to be a good wife. And even then I was trying to be a good wife. And we had conversations about when we planned to have children, what we'd like to do. And I had my ideas. I was like, well, we're gonna quit smoking dope. We ain't gonna be doing this anymore around when we have kids. We're not gonna do this. And there was things that I thought the direction we should go, that we disagreed with. I remember one time his brother, who had a wife and children that I knew, wanted to come over and spend the night with his girlfriend at our house, and that was against my principles, my morals. But he said, my house and my brother. So when he would say it's my,
did they do it? I don't remember.
Yes, they did.
No.
He said it was my house, and the more I would hear my house, then it meant I really wasn't the us.
Okay.
So it just, like I said, it was misunderstandings, and it was miscommunications, and the fact of the matter, the alcohol did not help. The smoking the dope did not help.
Okay.
But we loved each other.
Yeah, we did.
I mean, that all of that matters. At the foundation, there was love, but there was definitely some deep contributing factors.
Mm-hmm.
So, as I want to make sure I hit everything in here. So, and just going back from what you all said, your Dad, you're saying that you didn't you didn't have the role model. There was some pieces missing on your side, but you knew that you loved her. You didn't know how to set healthy boundaries. Meanwhile, mom might not have known how to communicate, so you all understood what the discussions or the arguments really were truly behind, maybe articulating what the root was. Our last guest on last week, Miss Amanda mentioned, it's not the root, it's not the fruit, it's the root. So it seemed like the root of the issue in your relationship at that particular time, some root problems were unestablished boundaries with family and friends. There was still the alcoholism and drug usage.
Mm-hmm.
I don't want to say addiction unless that's where you all felt. So there was, there was still some places that were broken on the inside of both of you. So okay. With that being said, because I think that's helpful to hear both of you all share some of the brokenness that you all had within yourself. So that was the 16 months. So you couldn't even get to the point of bringing in children in the world because there was still a broken foundation that you all were trying to build a house upon. So for all intents and purposes, you guys looked good. You had jobs, had vehicles, and had a home, but you did not have the unity that you needed. Okay. So then so we know that those are some of the contributing factors. So the divorce papers are filed. He feels blindsided.
I don't know why he was blindsided, because the last time that he did his little drive off, he told me not to be there when he got back.
Mm.
She never listened to me before.
So I went back to my mom's house, my mom and stepdad's house. So, and then I'm like, no, I'm not gonna keep doing this.
Mm-hmm.
I saw my mom and my stepfather break up, make up, break up, make up. I'm like,
she shot him.
Yeah, probably watching this too.
Hi, Grandma.
But to me, it was like, no, I'm not gonna do the in and out, in and out, in and out thing. He told me not to be here when he got back. I was gone.
Okay.
So that's how we ended up divorced.
16 months. Mm-hmm.
Okay, so during that process, so that you divorced in 75?
No. We were married for 16 months.
Okay, so
75, we were divorced in 77.
Okay, so from 77 to 1980, if each of you can give us maybe about 3 to 5 minutes, each of you share your process of what happened to the best of your recollection those 3 years. So I'll start with mom and then dad.
Okay, well, I got saved. We split up in April. I got saved August the 21st, 1977.
Okay.
And so I began my walk with the Lord. I knew it was right to walk with him. And I just was going on with my life. But when I went to make my public confession, because I accepted the Lord that Friday night after work, leaving Huntington Hospital, Reg he couldn't stand to see me. So he quit Huntington and went to work at Caltech. When I went to make public confession that Sunday at church, which I was told by my grandma about a church in LA where the pastor's wife used to be my Sunshine Band teacher back in Illinois when I was a little girl. Okay. So I started there. But what I did was I called up Kermit. I called him up and invited him to go to church with me. We went to church together, and I couldn't wait for the preacher to finish preaching so I could go up and to the altar, because I had accepted Jesus Christ as my Lord and Savior. So what the pastor did, Dr. Leonard Lovett, what he did was he took us out to dinner after service to talk and to explain to us that We needed to get back together.
Mm.
We could not, since I was a believer, I couldn't marry anybody else. That's what he said. Anyway, because he later divorced his wife and married somebody else. But anyway, that's what he told us. So I went home with Kermit after church,
Mm.
August 1st. I went home with him. I was going to try it. Well, no, I was not. I wasn't going home with the mind to try it. I was going home with the mind that it was going to work, and that this preacher had told me that that's what I needed to do.
Mm.
Went home and I called my mom to tell her I wasn't coming back to her house, that Reg and I were going to, um, you know, recommit. And she said to me several things, but one thing she said to me that hit my heart and my brain: you're going to be just like your grandmother. My grandmother was an alcoholic. My grandfather was an alcoholic, and um, I couldn't picture myself living like my grandmother. The
Yeah.
suffering, the stuff that she went through. I was like, no. I felt like that my childhood was bad enough, and at some point in time, I deserved a good life.
Right.
And I felt that since I was an adult, I was in control of that. So I told Kermit that I couldn't stay, and he was very angry, extremely angry,
Hmm.
but I had to go. And so we were divorced for almost 3 years.
Okay. Dad?
Well, the question is what again?
The question is, in the 3 years during your divorce, what was your what happened to you? What was your experiences? What um, from a healing perspective?
Well, yeah. Well, let me give you the picture. I'll pick up where she left out off. I was very angry.
Okay.
I was angry at everything and everybody. I was angry at her. I was angry at everybody, family and foe, that I felt like had anything to do with the demise of my marriage.
Mm.
And I was so angry and I was so hurt. I was so broken. I said, I'll never cry again.
Mm.
I'm a man, you know. And so I started just living my life, uh, a facade of a life, see, because I still loved her. And I tried to cover that love with everything I could think of. And at the end of the day, it was still me loving her. So
Mm.
nothing worse than being in love with someone that you can't be with.
Mm.
So during this divorce time, I'm going on for some time now. I'm mad at the world. And, and so, but it came a time that I began to look at myself. You know, I had to get it in my mind to where, if we never ever get back together, I have to live. I have to move forward. You know,
Mm.
and the Lord began to deal with me, and I didn't know it was the Lord. I would tell people, this voice told me this, this voice told me that. For instance, I would get, started getting back on my feet. It got me, we had lost everything.
Mhm.
I was in a terrible car accident. New car I had bought, it was total, no insurance. House
Mm.
gone, money gone,
Doggone.
fish died, you know, all of that. Went back to my parents' house. They had a little one-bedroom place, studio in the back of their house I was staying in. But I
Mm.
said in my heart when I left home at 18, I'm not going back home. When I left, I left for good. But here I am back, you know, and I'm in that situation. And so So it was pretty rough, 2 or 3 years. So back to what I was saying, I would get, I end up getting me a piece of jalopy, old '62 Ford for $500 I bought to get around. Start working at Caltech, end up purchasing a car from the vice president's wife, and so I started moving on, and when you're single, everybody's trying to hook you up with somebody.
Mm.
You know what? No, no. But it was a lot going on. So let me get to this part here. I would get ready. I'd get clean, jump in my little three-piece suit or slacks, whatever I'm wearing, chains, and so I would say, okay, I'll go to the neighborhood bar, get me a drink or two before I hit the streets, running the streets or going, wherever I'm going. And I would hear this voice, real subtle, saying, "Don't go in there." Same people doing the same thing over and over again. I'm like, what?
Mm.
What? And a depression would come over me.
Mm.
By this time, I had got me a real nice new apartment I was staying in. So trying to move forward in my brokenness.
Mm.
And I would go back to my apartment. Another time, drove all the way to LA to a friend's party, best friend's party, Tommy's party. Got in front of the house, and I hear this voice said, "Don't go in there."
Wow.
We're doing the same thing over and over again. What is going on here? And so all of this is happening to me, and it's so much I can tell you, but I know we're on limited time. So that happened. It happened many times, and one night it was a terrible thing. I thank God I didn't pull the trigger on in a situation, and that voice told me, "Put that gun down and go home." I sobered up. I was scared. I was shaking like a leaf on a tree. That voice called me by my family name, said Reggie.
Mm.
Put the gun down and go home. From that night, my life wasn't the same anymore. I'll say this real quick. My mom, I came in her house one day and she was just crying like a baby. She was saying, "Where did I go wrong? Where did I go wrong?" She was looking at me, the last hope, the youngest in the family with potential, jacked up. And when she was saying that, it was like somebody was cutting my heart out.
Mm.
And I said, and I remember she worked 2 jobs for us. My daddy was nowhere in sight. She prayed all the time. We were poor and didn't know it. All this is flashing me. And I said, "Mom, if you ever cry again, it won't be because of me." I didn't know what I was saying. I didn't have what it took at the time. But God heard that.
Okay.
And from that time to the day she died, she never cried another tear for me. So it wasn't long before one day I called Sandra. I had her number, didn't know where she lived. I'd see a little car go by Pasadena sometime. And it was a lot of spiritual things happening, you know. And to make a long story short, I knew she was in church because I would call her on a birthday, on a holiday or something, you know.
Aww.
And I began to tell her some of the things that was happening to me. Being choked in the middle of the night, can't breathe, this voice saying, "Say the Lord's Prayer." And before she knew what she was saying, she said, "Well, here's my address. Come over. Let's talk."
Okay.
I'm just looking at the time. Go ahead.
Okay.
Babe, jump in there.
No. He had called me at the job because he knew where I was. He had the work number. So I gave him my home phone number because I figured if he acts crazy, I'll just have my phone number changed. Had no intentions of when he did call me that late. It was at night. It wasn't that late, but it was dark and it was windy. And he was on his way to be hooked up with some woman that his cousin Jeremiah Cowens, Doc's stepdad. Doc's dad was going to introduce him and Leo Cowens was going to hook him up, going to get him married because this woman, she really wanted to be married bad, you know, and so he figured, well, his statement is he figured he'd play the role, marry this girl, forget about me.
Mm.
But got on the 210 freeway, headed out to West Covina for Pasadena, and here come that voice again. Just quiet. Now, mind you, I'm in my new GMC van, 3-piece down, going to hook up with this woman, play the role, and forget about her. And here comes this voice, say, "Call your wife." And nobody in the van but me. I said, "I ain't got no wife." A little further out, "I ain't got no wife." And we end up getting off on Myrtle. Little did I know that's where we'd be going to church later. And I called her.
In a phone booth.
At a phone booth.
Mhm.
And before she knew what she was saying,
Yeah.
pick it up from there.
Well, it was windy outside. I said, "Are you outside on a phone?" And he says, "I'm in a phone booth." And I said, "Oh my goodness!" And out of my mouth came, "Why don't you come over?"
Hallelujah.
And soon as I heard myself say that, I put my hand over my mouth. I could not believe I said that, because if he act crazy, I can't afford to move. What am I going to do? But he didn't act crazy. So I gave him the address. And at that time, I had a studio apartment where the bed came out of the wall.
She was poor.
Mhm.
She was poor.
I was very poor. The divorce had just wiped me out.
He took all your money, huh?
All $5. Okay, come on, let's get back.
I'm sorry. So he came over, excuse me, such a gentleman, and we talked.
Mm-hmm.
And we cried, and we talked, and we talked, and we talked. And we talked ourselves until we talked into him coming to church with me, talked until we talked about remarrying, and talked into remarrying, which we did in January of 1980.
Okay. So thank you both for sharing your process of healing. So you mentioned you from April, the original divorce in 77, August 21st, 77, you dedicate your life to Christ. Uh, Dad, what year did you surrender yourself to Christ after hearing all these, hearing the voice of God that whole time, not even knowing that it was him, but hearing and knowing that God was looking out for you, and you're responding in obedience during these, you're not going into the parties, you're getting off freeways and finding pay phones and connecting to the operator, I'm sure, because I mean it's pretty old times if you're saying that. But
Before all that, I looked in the mirror one time. I didn't say this part, and I didn't like what I saw.
okay.
It was dealing with me. I had to really force myself to see me.
Mm.
And that's when some healing began to start. But so as Sandy said, we began to talk. I began to go to church with her. I began to hear the word. And mind you, I had shared earlier that I said, I'll never cry again. I'm a man.
Right.
So I'd be sitting in the church, and the old pastor and deacon and others be singing and praying, and my eyes just start running water. And I never will forget one day I got up and I ran outside of the church. I said, I ain't gonna cry no more. And that same voice said, what are you doing out here? Drove me back inside, and I began to hear the word of God, and then we had begun to talk about remarrying. Now, to that point, my life was changing, but I hadn't given my life to Christ.
Okay.
But I'm excited. I mean, I never would have dreamed that we would ever be back together again.
Mm-hmm.
It was my lot to hurt for her the rest of my life, so be it. But I never thought ever that we would ever be back together again. So now here we are in church and talking about remarrying. And so I'm sitting on the fourth row on the west side of Open Door Church in Monrovia.
Mm-hmm.
Going on. And I began to bargain with God.
Mm-hmm.
I had a physical condition in my body. And, never diagnosed with anything. I just wasn't right. And I said, Lord, if you're really there, if you're really there, I said, I can't get married this way.
Mm-hmm.
If you're really there, if you touch my body, if you heal my body, I'll serve you the balance of my days. I ain't talking about next week, next month. On the spot, I felt healed. I felt different. And God freed me up that day, saved me, and we got married that January.
Mm-hmm.
Remarried.
Awesome.
Yeah.
That is
Then
beautiful.
we had a wedding. Then we had
Okay.
bridesmaids. We had the whole shebang bang.
We had Jesus.
Elder Henderson,
Mhm.
Henderson, married us. Ola, his wife, who was the pastor's daughter at that time, Elder Roosevelt Tuggle Sr., who was and Leola Tuggle, their daughter Ola, made the dresses for the bridesmaids. I mean, we weren't rolling in dough at all.
Mm-hmm.
It was the flour kind. But she made all those dresses for me, and she even made me a getaway dress because we did honeymoon that time, Camille.
And I did.
Was it still in California?
Yes, it was. It was in.
Okay.
Well, your grandfather, God rest his soul, had promised us when my ship come in, I'm sending y'all to Tahoe for your wedding, and apparently the ship didn't come in.
So we had our honeymoon up in Santa Barbara.
Mm-hmm.
Mind you,
right on the ocean though, beautiful.
We're excited. You know, this is a miracle.
Yeah.
The world says this don't happen. You don't get bit by the same dog twice. You don't, that's what the world says.
You got to change that analogy.
Hold on. So we get up there, and this is serious to me now.
Yeah.
Because I know from where we've come from.
Mm-hmm.
And I know the hurt and the pain that I've experienced. And now the joy that has filled my heart. So we get into our hotel room. We had others each this time too. I don't remember exactly what it was.
Wasn't KFC.
And but before we did anything else, once we got into it, before we consummated the marriage, I said, let's talk. Mm-hmm. Whatever questions you have, mm-hmm. whatever someone has told you, whatever you assume, whatever we need to talk about over these last 3 years, let's talk about it now. Because mm-hmm. I said, after this night, it'll never come up again. And mm-hmm. I can sit here tonight and say that we, in 40 years, have never thrown anything up in our other's face about you remember what you did.
Right, that's good.
You remember what, blah, it hasn't happened.
And that's that night I had no questions because it was before the Lion King, but I still knew that what was in the past was in the past.
Okay. All right.
Was sure that we were clear. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I didn't want us to go further with baggage from the past.
Yeah.
And it resonated with me so much at that point. If any man be in Christ, mm-hmm. he's a new creature. When God took that, before we remarried, God took the taste of alcohol out of me. I came in one day hot. I had said in my natural self, I'll never drink again. I'm going to get mm-hmm. myself together. And I had 2 cold Michelobs in the refrigerator. I was working out in the valley, living in Pasadena, worked all day, came home to my little apartment. And it was a real nice apartment. And so
nice. It was definitely a step up.
I came in and I was so thirsty. I opened the refrigerator, I took one of those Michelobs and I turned it up and I started drinking. I said, I'm never going to drink again. And I poured it out into the kitchen sink, took the other one and put it in the 60-gallon fish aquarium. Mm-hmm. The top almost rusted off. That was the last drink that I ever.
That's good.
I wondered when I came over to his apartment the first time, I was like, what is that why is there a beer in the fish tank? I mean, like, I was wondering if he had really, like, tripped out and starting to get the fish high or something. I don't know.
Okay. Well, yeah, fish don't get high, but okay. And no one can get high off of alcohol. Oh, boy. All right. Well, thank you so much for your transparency. It's definitely appreciated. So what are some nuggets that you can share? Because, we have singles, we have married, we have some that are in transition between singleness and getting exposed to their spouse now, and they're excited for a coming marriage. Then you have those that are fresh in marriage, maybe, during their first five years, maybe. Then you have others that have been bitten and have a negative taste regarding marriage because of experiences of their past. What can you share with the multiplicity of conditions of others, how can you share with them tonight some nuggets that can help them with their view of marriage, or just even with life and in relationship to how does it take three? In what you all have, how does it take three for it to be successful?
Can I say this before you
Sure,
say that?
sure.
God is, Jesus Christ is our third person of the marriage.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
He is not to ever be a silent partner.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. Yes, so and I was really pretty much thinking the same thing. I would admonish anyone and everyone to put God first. If you don't know Him, search Him out.
Okay.
He's not far away. And so on a spiritual side, I would say develop a relationship with the Lord Jesus Christ. On
Mm-hmm.
the natural side, I would say uh, learn how to communicate,
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
learn how to listen, learn how to the person that you have fallen in love with, or that you're married to, or you contemplating marriage. Don't put anything before or in the midst of the conversation. Look at the person in the eye, hear what they're saying, that you'll know, and the other party will know that you are communicating. Sometimes
Mm-hmm.
then what may be important to your spouse or your girlfriend may not seem that important to you, but it's monumental to them. And so sometimes you need to turn off the TV,
Mm-hmm.
focus on the person that you love that's right in front of you. That's so important. Men learn, and the Word of God helps us with that. Learn that it's a privilege to be a husband.
Okay.
It's a privilege to have someone who says that they are willing to spend the rest of their life with you and to love you until death do you part. Don't take that for granted.
Okay.
Thank God for that, you know. And so communication is key. And it's like Sandy's grandmother used to say, it's just nice to be nice. Don't be self-centered.
Mm-hmm.
It's no longer you. Now it's no longer two, but now it's one. You
Mm-hmm.
say to any man, and this will be one of, I got so many things I can say, but this will be one of my last ones. Learn to be so intimate with your wife that you can see, feel, and understand when there's a need in her life,
Wow.
to where, some things she shouldn't have to ask for.
Wow.
It's no harm if she do, because she's somebody and she has needs. But if I'm in tune enough with her, I'll be able to see some things that she need or desire, or I can see what hurts her when she's not in a safe place.
Mm-hmm.
Women need security, love. Men needs respect, and it's not just black and white like that, but it
Right.
takes working together.
That's good. That's really good. Mom, did you want to add maybe something to share with the ladies?
Yes, I do want to say that it's important when my husband said men need respect. Do not attack a man's ego, please. Please don't do that. That is so ugly. That causes that causes such disdain. Some things men will never recover from, and you'll never get that love that you really needed from him, that
Mm-hmm.
God is prepared to have him give to you.
Mm-hmm.
So we talk a lot about rules of engagement. Um, it's just like my husband recounted my grandmother saying, it's just nice to be nice. If we think about being kind and not being hurtful or being because hurt people hurt people, but we have to stop the we have to stop the bleeding
Right.
so that we can heal, because we can't heal while we keep hurting one another.
Right.
And let me just say this real quick. I know we're probably out of time, but it's important to know who your spouse is.
Okay.
It's important to know their heart. You need to know who you're dealing with. And so I know Sandy doesn't mean me any harm ever.
And vice versa.
Now that doesn't mean that my feelings haven't been hurt or I took something wrong or whatever. But as we stop and be still and allow the dust to settle in this time of maybe anxiousness or miscommunication, then the first thing that I know is she don't mean to hurt me.
Right.
And so that gives us a start in communicating, putting the thing together out in front of us and go from there. Because I love, no one like conflict, but I sure love making up with her. I love to tell her, sweetheart, I am so sorry. I love you. And men, don't just say you're sorry and think that's a magic mantra, that makes everything right. Learn how to say what you're sorry for. I'm sorry how I acted, how I spoke to you, how that made you feel in front of your friend, whatever. Get to the nitty gritty. This is what I'm sorry for. And I hurt because you hurt. I did that. I'm sorry.
Wow. Whew. That is amazing. I mean, there was so many nuggets in that. For the men and women listening, I hope that you all have been tremendously touched and blessed by the story of hearing from Kermit and Sandra Perry on this evening. Taking responsibility is huge. Yeah. Taking ownership. I'm hearing knowing that true intimacy, knowing your mate, not just in the natural way, but knowing their heart, knowing their hurt, knowing, spending time communicating with one another so you can always know at the root where you're at. I think these are some healthy tips, some nuggets for those that are even aspiring to be married, or looking forward to marriage, to hold on to even now. As even for those that are in marriage, they may feel loveless, someone might, as you all were sharing, might be contemplating divorce, contemplating giving up. I think that it's important that we kind of look back over this conversation and hear your story and see where are we slacking. And I believe at the root of it, if God is not the active partner in the relationship, you're going to have some serious struggle. You're already going to have struggles in life, but without him being the active participant, because it truly takes three. It truly does take three. So thank you, Mom and Dad, aka Pastor Kermit and Sister Sandy Perry. Where can, if I saw someone comment that they would love to talk with you, they're newly engaged. Congratulations, Tammy and her intended. Where could they find you, or how can maybe couples that might be in need, how can they get in contact with you all?
Tell them to contact you, and you give them the information, the pertinent information they need. We're always available. When we're not, we'll make time available. And if we can help someone along the way.
Awesome. Okay, so with that being said, yes, if you need to get in touch with the Perrys, you definitely can contact them at 3psministries at gmail.com. If anyone is looking for counseling, any type of, I take it you do offer counseling and premarital counseling, engagement. They also have what they call a marriage rescue team. And that marriage rescue team is deployed to assist those in need. So thank you again, from the bottom of my heart. Even though some things I've heard throughout my lifetime, I still learned more today. And that's one of the things that I'm appreciative of, growing with and learning my parents and learning who Kermit and Sandy are, not just my parents, not just pastor and his wife, not just that, but as individuals, and knowing who you both are, and to see your love in the 36 years that I've been alive, but to know where you all have come from and to see where God has taken you. I'm honored just to be a part of your journey. So thank you. We appreciate you. Thank you all for tuning in. We went a little bit over, but not a problem. It was quality time. And so thank you all for sharing. This will be available on YouTube for ladies. Just a reminder, we do have the Be Healed Women's Conference that will be done digitally, happening August 14th through the 15th. Make sure you register at www.behealedconference.com. And if by chance you would like to share your story, your journey, how God is healing or has healed you in any facet of life, please do so by emailing me directly at behealedconference@gmail.com, or you can email me directly at CamilleRPerry@gmail.com. I believe you have something sweet for you all to enjoy. Thank you for being the sweetest parents that I know. Shout out to Carly's Cheesecakes, located in Eastville, for a dynamic peach cobbler cheesecake that my parents will be able to participate and take part in. So support our local businesses. And that is the wrap for tonight's episode. We are appreciative. Thank you, thank you, thank you for the Perrys. And if you need a live Q&A, if there's ever to get in touch, we have that information listed in our plug. With that being said,
God bless you.
God bless you. Good night. And thank God for being healed.
Amen.